What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys haven't been paying attention for the past 10 days, we have been in Connecticut with my friend Tommy from the Tommy FEI YouTube channel, right? Are you a YouTuber or what are you?
I'm just a guy.
You're just a normal guy that likes cars.
Yeah.
A lot of you guys are probably wondering, like, what was the purpose? Why did I come up here to Connecticut? Why did I build a car in Tommy's shop when I have my own shop back in Colorado where I build cars?
Because you don't have GTR stuff.
I don't have GTR stuff. And I wanted to build a GTR. And I knew that when I built my Supra, one of the biggest things, the biggest hurdles I had to jump over was like finding parts. And then literally it's insane the level of, look at the pile of turbos over there. There's an insane amount of turbos in zinc plates and bolts and nuts and just literally everything you need to, like, the one minor little thing that I wouldn't even know where to begin with. I just walk over here, say, hey Tommy, hey Josh, where's this little bolt? And then we literally like dig through the zinc drawer, bam, here's a brand new one. You know, how else would I have found that?
You wouldn't have.
Exactly. That's why.
You would have had shitty hardware all over your car, like most builds all over the country.
Well, it's tough because, okay, what is the process for getting something zinced?
It's a lengthy process. It takes like 2 weeks. Send it out, get it back, sort it.
And then if you forget a bolt or you're missing one thing.
And some of these are really specific. There's a couple bolts that, like the TPS bolts, stuff like that, is you can't like substitute. Some of them can be substituted, some nuts interchange, but there's a lot that you need that one or you're putting some Home Depot bullshit in your car.
And so that leads us into FYEAHSPEC. You know, that's kind of on the back of Tommy's shirt right here, it says FYEAHSPEC. And it's kind of his thing. And honestly, when I first came here, I didn't really know what it was. And
you thought you did.
I thought I knew. I did. I thought it was a, you know, a clean build, clean engine bay, good parts with you know, attention to detail, painted bay, zinc bolts, like clean piping, clean everything else. But I don't think I fully grasped the level. And like,
my favorite part is when you learned. Tell them when you learned. It's okay.
So
to go full disclosure.
There was a, what?
It's right there. That
car right there. So the first day I was here, the very first day that I was here actually working on my car, Peter was painting a bay over here in that gray GTR, all done. At the end of the day, literally, he was hustling all day. Got here in the morning, got it sealed, and painted it by like, what was it, 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah, he'd already prepped a bit, and so it took him the whole day.
The whole day, and it was ready to go. So then, the next day, I think it was that night, you looked at it, and you're like...
the next morning I came in, and I called him, and he was in the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru. And he was upset with the news. Which you thought the bay was beautiful. Yeah. Right?
The paint didn't match.
It didn't match.
It did. I thought, like, looking at the paint, the whole car has been resprayed probably how many times?
Each panel is like, I mean, it's not bad, but once you paint a car, paint a fender, paint a door, like, certain colors can mask it, some can't.
Yeah.
And it was a variant of the same color. It was, I'd say, too blue.
It definitely looked like just barely minorly more blue than kind of the brownish that the car
it had more brown. The car had more brown.
I'm looking at this bay, which is immaculate, like literally fucking immaculate. Beautiful paint job. Tommy's just like, repaint it. Like,
had to be repainted. It had to be stripped all. And it's worse when you freshly paint something to bring it all the way back down to below that, through sealer, like through everything. He brought it all the way back down and had to redo the whole thing, and it took him 2 days. So he worked on it like a day and a half, and then redoing it took him 2 days. But it matches beautifully
and now the paint, now it matches. And he literally says he spent half of a day sitting there just like doing spray outs. Yeah. Like doing all the stuff. And that's when like I was like, okay, there's something a little bit different about this. And I think it's the unwillingness to like cut corners or like to settle for anything less than that.
So like, I want to give you background because obviously there's things going on right now. If somebody pushes me to allow me to do that, which recently just happened, it's catastrophic. It's catastrophic. FYEAHSPEC has to be done, FYEAHSPEC, and you can't run out of money. And this is like a public service announcement. If you run out of money, and we run out of time, it can't be FYEAHSPEC. It can only be worse, you know? And it sucks, but I'm glad you got to experience it firsthand and see what it is. Because even in the YouTube video, like, they'd never get that story. It doesn't do it justice. I would never tell that story. Like, it's a fine story. Like, it's happened 2 times here where colors didn't match enough and they had to be redone. But you were appalled. You're like, I would just send it.
To a certain level, yes, customer cars, it's a different level. If it was my personal car, I would have sent it. Obviously I did. My paint in my bay is slightly different, you know? And slightly different. But you know, it was one of those things. I mean, it's different. And honestly, like, I don't know, me and you were talking about it on the little podcast that we filmed, but like, I don't know if I'd want to be you.
Imagine being a 2 and having insane taste for a 20, not even a 10. That's my life. I'm a 2 trying to fuck 20s.
And you won't settle for anything.
I won't settle for anything. It's not like I'm like, okay, she's a 16. Yeah. So it sucks because maybe you just don't get any then, you know?
All or nothing.
It's all or nothing.
All or nothing, that's it. So that's what really stood out to me. But I mean, what would you say is the most like FYEAHSPEC thing here?
I mean, this is just like a basic, this is like a basic engine.
Similar to what I have.
Yeah, similar. The attention to detail goes much further than what you have, but basic engine. This is like bone, like as basic as you can get. I mean, it has the plastic cap. Bowman's car here is the most FYEAHSPEC. There's a couple things I didn't do that like are his choice, like the strut tower bar, but this is it. This is what I wish every car could do. Now, this is insanely pricey. It's not done yet. It's insanely pricey, but like Bowman's like, I just want it done right. And they'd be like, okay, but you know, and I'd try to like sell him and not doing it. You know what I mean? I'm like sitting there like, you know, it's gonna be expensive. He's like, just want it done right. He didn't say keep it cheap. He didn't say any of that shit. Just want it done right. And he allowed me to just do it right. And this thing's awesome. You know, like this is it.
Seemingly like the most basic colored GTR just looks just so extra. Right. You know, with the subtle little hints, you know, the wheels and the brake
calipers. And I mean, like there's nothing really bright in here but the strut tower bar.
Yeah.
Like we use wrinkle black. This is HKS. It's like so close to KH2, which is original, the color of the car. Like these are not lime green and purple and you know, T-bolts or Wiggins. It's just like black couplers, wrinkle black piping, gray valve cover, gray bay.
OEM hoses with OEM zinc.
Yeah. I like this. I really do like this. People love like Samco hoses and shit. I like this so much.
I like that too. When we put those on my car, I was just like, yeah, I get it. Like it just, the way they fit on there, it's
right.
different.
So like as you go down, like this is the most FYEAHSPEC. And then like this car, the idea when we started this was gonna be like as OEM like to a fault. But then talking to the customer, he's like, you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. So this is like a weird mixture of OEM and then aftermarket. You know, the stock piping dates the bay, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
like honestly, like this is the piping that I want in my bay with the twin turbos.
Right.
Like I would much rather prefer this because it gives it that little extra. You know?
And then like that's a Nismo oil separator instead of a catch can. Drains into the rear turbo. Like it's OEM as far as I'm concerned. This is also FYEAHSPEC. It's just not as you know, I mean, it's my spec in a lesser built car.
In like regards to like more of a budget, I guess.
More of a budget. Yeah, this was like more of a budget and parts availability.
So even up here in the front, this was one thing that we had to do was, you know, all of the condensers, the fans, the horns, everything in the front gets painted or vapor blasted. And the vapor blasting, just the name, you think you're gonna pull out a little fire hose and just go and just clean off parts. It literally we tried my oil pan for
it's a very slow process.
Hour and a half. And he said, oh yeah, probably 3+ hours standing there.
And you didn't believe me.
I didn't believe him at all.
He's like, I'm gonna do that. I'm like, okay, see you later.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about it. So like we gave up on my oil pan. Like we just cleaned it, degreased it, dry blasted it, and it looks good enough for me. And I think that I'm kind of an instant gratification guy. You know, like I wanna get it clean to a certain extent, but like I wanna drive it. And I'm also kind of like on a budget too. I don't have an expensive thing over there and I don't have the driest blaster, but like now I kind of want that stuff. You know, like if I was 50 years old and retired and I had a 2-car garage attached to my house and endless amounts of time or money or whatever, I didn't have to do anything. Like, would I sit there for 3 hours and do that oil pan? I don't know, maybe I'd just pay somebody to do it. You know, that's probably what I want to do. But you know, I would want to be at that, you know, like this, where there's absolutely 0 corners cut. You know, we did this build essentially here, what was it, 6 days of like actual work?
Let me tell you something about Trevor. I learned a lot about this guy too. The first 3 days, it was a tough start, which I get. Like I've worked in other people's shops, traveled, I've done things. It's not comfortable. It's weird. It's so hard to put into words what it's like to walk into somebody's shop and just go to work. But
you don't have anything.
You don't have your normal stuff.
You have this guy freaking breathing down your neck.
Yeah, but he was like trying to wrap his head around it for a couple of days, and I just kept saying, like, you got to get to work. Here's the procedure, here's the procedure, here's the procedure. And he fought it a little bit because he had built cars before. Like, that's the hardest thing, right? If you already are set in your ways and you don't go outside of that, and that's a big problem with YouTubers. They're used to like being in their shop with their tech and just like doing stuff this way. Maybe you see stuff online, but you really need to experience this to go home and change.
Well, there's like an order of operations, you know? And like I had mine in my head, and I've been self-employed since I was 17, 18 years old. And having Tommy like tell me what to do was different. You know,
treated him like an employee.
Yeah,
you know, like just like
it was interesting.
This is what you need to do, because I knew you by day 2.5. I knew you weren't going to start yourself and just jump into it. I knew I had to like ruffle your feathers a little bit.
Oh, yeah, my feathers, they were ruffled.
Yeah, he was lost.
I was a little bit lost.
He was lost.
I mean, you almost get overwhelmed because you don't even know where to start.
Charles, I drew him a fucking map. Remember? He just didn't. He just wouldn't do it. But then by day like 5. When you started seeing your timeline, like you were like, oh wow. You did 4 16+ hour days straight, I'd say, right? Is that accurate?
I mean, and no, like barely any sleep. Like you go to bed and you hurt, you wake up and you hurt. Like your body just hurts all over because you've just been walking all day and you literally haven't sat down. That's how the past like 3 days were.
That's how my guys feel. Like, so we have a weird business model here, but we have 2 techs. One tech is mine. He'll work on YouTuber stuff and he'll prep stuff and he'll work on my stuff. And Josh does customer stuff. Occasionally, Josh will do customer stuff till till 6 o'clock. And then he'll come and help with YouTuber stuff so we can bang it out. So when we did Dustin's build, they felt like that. You know what I mean? Like they felt like you did. Yeah. They didn't go quite as hard. Like they weren't working until 2. They were working until 10. But you're on your feet all day on the concrete, just like grinding. When a YouTuber leaves, when you leave, I know I'm not gonna have to worry about stuff I do with a customer, right? Like you'll leave and be like, hey, this coolant thing's leaking, and we'll walk you through where it is or whatever. And so it's okay to do those rush builds, but you know, it's a process. It's a long process.
There is absolutely no way that I could have built a car to this level without this shop and this availability of like the parts and the zinc and the new pieces on the shelf and everything like that. So, I mean, part of the reason I even wanted to come out here was to just look at the process. How do you build 10 GTRs? And a lot of it starts with like having a couple parts cars where you literally have all the bolts.
Yeah, we needed like cores. So like my GTR that got hit was like our first core. You know, it was our first cores. It had everything, and we took it apart, and I didn't really sell much, just buying pieces. I mean, a lot of S chassis parts work, so we parted out clips, so we did stuff like that, but having the cores is key. And then a lot of this, we have so many cores, because once this guy changes intercooler pipe, I'm like, hey, what do you want to do with your intercooler pipe? I'm like, we'll throw it out, keep it, whatever. So we put it in a bin. You come, stock car, this ripped, you know, whatever, and that's really nice. The more we change, the more cores we get. You know, we've had customers not want to put AC back in, and I'll always offer to buy their stuff to put it on the shelf and have it for later. There's a lot, you know, you fill up the shop really quick. No, it was fun to hear, like, it's almost like validation. Like, one thing you gotta understand, I don't do any of this work. This is all my brainchild, but I have the tools. I have Josh, I have Clinton that are good at what they do and are good at listening, unlike Trevor. This is Josh, this is Clinton, and then my idea being put onto paper, you know, being put onto cars. We're not reinventing the wheel. We try to buy as much off the shelf stuff as huge.
Well, that's how you convinced me on the twin turbos. You're like, you buy an OEM replacement downpipe, OEM intercooler piping, OEM intercooler. It will literally bolt on and you won't have to fabricate.
Yeah, like bolt on intercooler. Don't just get a core. Bolt on turbos, bolt on downpipe, all that stuff being bolt on saves you so much time, so much planning, because whoever did this figured it out, you know, already.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, this is that bay that they had to repaint, by the way.
This is one of the best matching bays ever.
Yeah. No, it does look really
This
good.
needs to be polished and stuff, but like this is, when we put it under the light, just the right amount of brown, you know, it's like, it's crazy. So this place has hurt me too, because now I see shit. The more I see shit, the more I see shit out in public, where I'm like, ugh, you know.
So what do you think about me? Like, because I feel like I'm a lot different than a lot of other YouTubers. Like I'm almost...
You're a DIYer to your core, which is good and bad. I tried to explain this on my podcast. Like, the reason I don't do the work, I don't have the patience. The reason I don't paint, I don't have the skill. The reason I don't weld, I don't have the skill or the patience to learn. I would rather be a curator and put the best tech that I can find, the best painter that I can find in those places, and then oversee, you know, like a manager.
That's what I was kind of even trying to just look at, you know, because I'm the business manager, I'm the finance guy, I'm the accountant, I'm the idea guy, engine builder, fabricator, painter, bodywork guy, everything. And I feel like I'm running around with my freaking head cut off, you know?
Like, for some people, being able to do it themselves is more rewarding. For some people, being a jack of all trades and a master of none is more rewarding. You hear built not bought and all that shit. It's ego shit. If I know I can't paint, I'm gonna try to get the best painter, or a painter that can paint and it can be fixed by the best buffer. You know, whatever it is, I want to find the best that I can and have them do it, because I'm too old to try to learn all these new things.
It's tough, you know? Like you were talking about, like finding the best painter. Like the reason your R32 GTR, which was kind of the blueprint of all this, isn't done yet is because you keep finding things that you want to do. Yeah. You keep want to escalate and
I learned from every customer build, like for myself, not like learning on the build, but I'll be like, ooh, I didn't like how that went. I didn't like where that goes. I don't like this intercooler piping kit. Where if I had to build each one of these cars myself, I'd make it through 1.5 and not have any money left. But I can say, I like the Gretty piping more with twins, and I like the HKS intercooler more because it mounts like OEM. And like I could go through that and discover these things and eventually curate even better builds. Just the perfect spec, whatever it is, you know, it's out there. Your problem is a control problem, is a control issue.
Well, I think it's a budget problem. You know, when I first started out,
this dude has 400 cars. How many cars you got, really?
Probably about 38, 40 now.
You do have 40 now.
40 now.
I have a lot of cars. He has 40 cars. Not quite as many parts as me, but different parts.
Lots of parts.
It's not a budget thing. You're just not focused.
I'm not focused on the right things, and I get distracted, and there's shiny pennies that pop up. You know, and I don't have a board of directors. I don't have a manager to tell me when I'm messing up. It's me, you know. And
he calls me all the time and I say you're messing up, and he doesn't listen.
And this was, I mean, I listened to this though. Like the day that we left, I was just like, I looked at Charles in the passenger seat. I was like, are you ready, buddy? Like, are you sure you want to do this? You know, like, I don't know if I want to do this, you know, because I'm
almost bailed. But now that you did it, what do you take back to Colorado?
A lot of it. I think time management is huge for me. The plan of the build, to see it through, and the having the parts is a big thing, you know, because I start builds all the time without parts.
Everyone.
Last minute. And then it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna overnight this, and okay, well, I just overnighted this from that account, and I need to overnight something else because I forgot this one thing.
Double overnight.
Overnight. They both get there the next day, and then all of a sudden there's this other thing that you forgot.
And you never even needed them overnighted.
Exactly. Yeah. And that happened to me on the Mustang. I just want to slow down. I think that's kind of what, like,
slow down to speed up.
Slow down to speed up.
Because if you slow down and you plan out a build, and you call up me if you're gonna build a GTR, call up Adam if you're gonna build a drift, like whatever, and get the list. I could have given you a list a month ago. You could have stacked all the parts. Your life would have been so nice. Yeah. You know, it would have been so nice. But you live and learn. I like to stack, I mean, you noticed, all the parts and then some before I start a build. Now, in the beginning, I used to do the same thing. And it would make me not finish builds. And I started learning how I was. And I was like, I'm not gonna finish this if this sits idle for 4 months, like during the build process. My 32 is fine. It's like not in the build process. It's just like this, and that's okay. If it like put the engine in and then I had to wait 6 months for intercooler piping and I had to wait 2 months for an exhaust, I would lose interest like quickly, you know? And I learned that and said, I'm gonna stack as much shit and I'll have fun installing each piece today, tomorrow, instead of install one and then you see the shiny penny. Like install one, oh, that's a nicer GTR than mine. I wish I didn't, you know, it'll fucking ruin you.
There's a lot of almost like coaching, you know, to like come here like the little.
And I'm not like the best, the nicest, the coolest thing is like you can get a little coaching from Adam or a little coaching from Dustin or TJ and like see how they do it. And I get to experience that because they all come here. You know, if we build Dustin's car, if we build Adam's car, Hert's car, Hoonigan was here, I get to see all these different operations. and then hone mine. Not that I do a very good job at that, but I can see and I can give really good advice because of what I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys didn't know, I mean, it's obviously not really apparent in videos, but like me and Tommy talk like 2 or 3 times a week for like
easy,
at least 30 minutes to an hour every time.
Right.
Like I get home at night and like you'll call me and I'm like, no, I can't answer this because I know I'll be on the phone with you for an hour, like just talking about ideas and plans, and him telling me, you should do this, you should do this, and then me not listening, and then me see, you know, the decline in like the YouTube channel or the build quality or the last minute rush stuff. So this is something that we've honestly been planning for over a month before I even got out here. Was like, all right, let's do something with the 32. Hey, I got a shell. Hey, I think you should bring your car up here.
Yeah, he was gonna drive the red one from Colorado, which would have been sick, but it would have sucked.
But yeah, I mean, and I think this is a perfect example. I mean, if you guys look at the views on the channel over the past week and you look at the quality of the build that came out of this thing, you know, I'd like to say that I'm gonna, you know, maybe not do the full FYEAHSPEC moving forward. It's gonna be a blend in between.
I like to influence the influencers, and I'm like once again, I didn't invent any of these processes. Some viewers are a little, you know, pessimistic, and they like to think that I think I own this. I'm just found what I didn't like, what I did like, and implemented what I did like, and influence, because we are influencers, and if we all built shit, there'd be a bunch of shit on the street, and the more influencers that I can collect to build nice, the nicer the cars are going to be.
I think a perfect example of like what you do is you hold the line. You draw the line and you say, and you're like, all right, we're not crossing that. If you cross that, this is what happens, right. You know, with the builds, with whatever. And this is the standard, and we're not settling for anything less.
And we're trying to figure out how to do that in the shop. That's the hardest hurdle I've had. I thought I'd get a shop. People like Bowman would hit me up and say, just do it right. And I'd be able to just do it right. And I'm not saying no budget, but basically no budget. I mean, like, you can't do this on a budget. You can't do this on a budget. The amount of hours that goes into just getting it to this level, to then get it to this level or that level, and that's the thing that I didn't account for, was people wanting what we could do. And I don't even want to say not afford it, just not really value it as much when it's put into a dollar amount, right? Like, you want this.
Everybody wants it.
But you couldn't put this into a time amount. Fuck the dollar. You were like, I want to drive the car.
Yeah.
If my car was down to this level, you lose interest, you throw it together. That's the biggest hurdle we've had as a shop, and that's the most humbling part, is thinking I could just start a shop and just do these builds, and people would like come from all over and just want the works, you know, the platinum package on a bronze budget. And I really want to get you there, but...
And I was trying to do that.
Yeah, you were trying to do the platinum package on a bronze budget. You thought the more you did,
the less it was going to cost.
The less it was going to cost. But it's not about that. Like, our labor is our cheapest part of our invoices. So many new parts. These engines are so expensive. We don't do the zinking. We don't do the powder coating. We're going to soon, but like, it's painful. It's painful to get a car to this level, have people excited about doing this, but then putting too much of a dollar amount on it to where they're like, oh, it's actually not worth it. Because to me, as you know,
it's worth it.
It's worth it. I don't want anything less. I can't. I'm not excited about anything less. Whenever I hear somebody half-assing something, I'm like, why? Just wait a little longer. If you had a month, how much better would your car been?
It would have been a lot. I would say a lot better.
If you had 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, even a month is like, you're still struggling.
Well, and I mean, we pretty much did most of the work on the car here. You know, like I did.
Yeah.
You know, like with a little bit of help here and there, but like, it's insane the amount of like hours in just like sanding and cleaning to like paint the brake booster and paint all the little fittings and find the zinc and find all the elbows.
I would say,
brackets.
and like one thing we don't charge for, we can't charge for, I just don't know how to. How many hours is Josh looking for these bolts? It's not a lot, but over the course of a year, it's a lot.
So what changes going forward?
I don't know what changes moving forward. I think
planning should be done. Far planning.
Yeah.
Not just like planning a build, like, because the worst part about YouTube that I noticed, you plan a build and it takes up all your time. You plan it for, let's just say, a month, and you're like, okay, cool. A month later, all the parts show up, you got the car, you've got all the parts, you're like, time to get dirty. You start putting it together, views are going, good feedback, car's done, and you're like so proud of yourself. You go to bed and the next day you wake up and you went, fuck, I didn't plan today. I was so busy planning the last 2 weeks and then working for 2 weeks that now I have a dead spot, and that dead spot could be 2 months because it takes a month to plan, a month to get parts, and then to start a build again. So you have to plan 6 months in advance. I'm gonna do this build and fall right into this other build. And that's what the viewers don't understand.
Yeah. So now we're on this side of the shop. What do you think of my car?
It's a great attempt for the time you had. I'll say it like that. It's not, I'm not gonna be like a prick about it. You had 7 days to do it. Your AC stuff was redone. This was obviously in the beginning. You could tell as it fell apart where it fell apart. You had some ratty wiring. You didn't know what route you were going with the intake manifold, so you just vapor blasted it. Missed some brake line clips, don't have a catch can, whatever. Had to fix your radiator, things of that nature, but it's a great start. Yeah. It's an awesome start, I think. You know, you paint the car, do a catch can, clean up some wiring for the fuel pump, get a good tune on it, and yeah, it's fine.
I mean, in that, I think that obviously I'm going to continue this level moving forward. We just didn't have the time, didn't have the parts here to physically make this a reality while we were here.
It's crazy to me that you were still today, like, he's like, the twins are awesome, and then he stopped himself because he didn't want to admit it. But then he's like, I could have done the downpipe and intercooler. It's bullshit. If he had another day that he had to fabricate, he wouldn't have made it to Grid Life today. And like, he didn't really make it to Grid Life, but he did. Like, I'll count it. You drove to Grid Life while it was still going on. You didn't get to drive on the track, but you drove to Grid Life while it was still going on. So in some made up dumbass deadline world that we chose for no reason, you pulled it off. But it's not quite FYEAHSPEC, but it's not bad. For your first one, maybe this was my first FYEAHSPEC car. You know what I mean? That I commissioned people to do, and this is the best they could do. And it's fine. Yeah. It's a respectable build for sure. People were walking up to it all day at Grid Life like, oh yeah, this is so clean. And I'm sitting there like, really?
Well, yeah, it's funny though, because Tommy was like, he'll talk crap to us right now, but like when I was kind of standing off to the side, he was like bragging. He's like, oh yeah, he built it in like 6 days, and like.
Well, telling people it's impressive, because I know what it takes to just get this engine that's on the stand into a car. I know what it takes. People think, I'll just slap it in. I mean, you thought it. I'll just slap it in, I'll throw some piping on it. Days and days and days. To have this base stripped down to nothing, to paint it, to push it over here, like, it's days of work. You did it. But now, it has to go back to Colorado in this last final moment, which is actually, should have been the true deadline, is catching this bus. And you did it, so you gotta get the fuck out of here. The coolest part about this is the Altia cap.
All right, Tommy, you ready?
Where'd you get that?
Partsfornissans.com.
There it is. That's an R34 plaque. It's all wrong, but I'm gonna take it.
Looks good. Well,
is that the end?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Glad you got it done. It's cool. Go back to Colorado. Keep doing this. No more two-tone Supras.
3.
Oh, it's 3 tones. Okay, no more 3-tone Supras. Does the Bay and the Supra look this good?
Yeah, better.
Okay.
I'd say it's better.
Yeah,
but I spent months.
Yeah.
Months. Appreciate you guys watching. See you later.